Whenever I go on Fox News, inevitably there is a horde of angry screenshotters who post these little screenshots on Twitter and elsewhere of my appearance on the show. And explicit or implicit in their promulgation of these screenshots is the idea that I'm really bad for going on Fox News, and in particular the Tucker Carlson show, which tends to be the show that I go on. So I'm happy to explain my reasoning for going on Fox. I don't think it's that complicated. If I'm asked to give my honest views, I will do so on virtually any forum which offers it. I've never been told what to say on Fox. That's just not how it works, at least in my experience. What happens is you get contacted by somebody associated with the show, want you to speak on a certain topic, and then you do it. I could, do cartwheels or wear my underwear on my head on Fox, and there would be no restrictions. Now, when you're on cable news, it tends to be for a brief period of time, so you can't articulate all the thoughts that you might want to on a given subject. It's sort of just the constraint inherent in the medium. But there's nothing that I've ever said on Fox that I wouldn't say on left-wing podcasts, which I regularly do, left-wing YouTube, which I regularly do, other mainstream media that I do. I've been on NPR and CNN and so forth, and I've always basically said to myself, my only real condition for appearing on these media is that I'm able to state what I want to state, that it's as an accurate reflection of my beliefs. And if I'm not inhibited from doing so, then I will do so. Obviously, you got to make some reasonable determinations as to what media you'll do in certain circumstances, but Fox is the most watched news channel in the entire country. So if I'm asked to appear on a show to comment on a news story, it just doesn't make sense to me to decline on the basis of stuff that transmits the airwaves on Fox not being stuff that I agree with, which obviously happens every single day. I only am accountable, I should think, for what I personally say. So if CNN or MSNBC wants to have me on to discuss Tulsi Gabbard's exclusion from the upcoming debates, which is not definitive yet, but seems increasingly likely with each passing day, I'll be happy to do so, and I won't say anything different than I did on Fox. I've been on Fox many times to discuss the Trump-Russia narrative, and it's no secret as to why MSNBC and CNN don't tend to entertain people with a viewpoint similar to mine. It's because they were invested in a version of the narrative that was totally groundless in my view, and therefore any dissenting opinion was really not permitted on unless you were some kind of just knee-jerk Trump partisan who could give them, the quasi-balance that they need on occasion. My reasons for disputing the Trump-Russia narrative, which was multifaceted and still is and encompasses all kinds of dimensions, was never that I was defending Trump. It was that I was defending, reality. And that's just not what CNN and MSNBC were interested. Fox News was interested in it for reasons that, of course, in part stem from their stalwart defense of Trump, but I never went on making that defense. I criticized the Trump-Russia narrative for reasons that have nothing to do with my supporting Trump, which I do not. In fact, I oppose Trump. I will not vote for him for re-election. I did not vote for him in 2016. And, on balance, I'd like to see a competent Democratic nominee who's able to challenge Trump on some of his key failings. But that's not going to stop me from going on Fox News and talking to an audience of millions of people and maybe changing their perspective on things, which I think should be the ambition of anybody who's engaged in public life, which I am to some extent. Not that I'm a household name, obviously, but if I can reach people, I'll do so. And I don't know why that's become so controversial. You have these people who are on Twitter in particular, who have it as their job, I guess, to monitor Fox News all day. And whenever somebody goes on Tucker, it's, a 5-alarm fire emergency, and you get furiously denounced as some kind of enabler of fascism. I don't support everything Tucker says. I don't support anything that any TV anchor says, and I acknowledge that there are pernicious aspects of Fox News that are different than the pernicious aspects of other corporate media, but corporate media in general has very much pernicious features. I don't think CNN, for example, has comported itself particularly well over the course of the Trump presidency. They've ginned up frenzy and fury that hasn't amounted to anything constructive, and the same can be said for Fox in different ways, but that's not really the point. The point is that there is this illogical, reflexive sort of attribution of guilt by association that happens when you appear on one particular news show that I don't think is warranted at all and doesn't stand up to scrutiny. And that's why when these people circulate these screenshots, they tend not to circulate my entire comments, because they'd rather just have people look at the, image and draw sinister inferences. It's amazing to me that speaking about a candidate, for example, as I did on Friday on Tucker's show, who is being spuriously excluded from the next debates on what I regard to be spurious grounds, and I think any fair reading of that should demonstrate it, that's somehow, fascistic? Really? Tulsi Gabbard is a Democrat. I know that maybe that comes as a surprise to people, but she has fairly straightforward left-wing policy views on a whole host of issues, and I actually said that on Tucker's show. And if Fox News is the only media outlet that wishes to give an airing to people who are pointing out why her being excluded would be totally groundless, then okay, fine. Why don't people criticize CNN and MSNBC and these other outlets for not giving any airtime? It doesn't have to be me, but to anybody who really deviates from liberal orthodoxy today. It shouldn't only be Fox, or you would think it would not have to be only Fox that does that. And yet, that's sort of the situation in which we find ourselves. So, as a single individual who has some affiliation with different media outlets, I wrote for the New York Daily News just this week. I had my Tulsi article on Real Clear Politics, etc. I'm not going to cut myself off from a potential audience just because there are various people on the line who think that it's this tremendous moral offense if you go on a particular TV show. I mean, please. As I've pointed out repeatedly, Bernie Sanders has collaborated more with Fox than I ever have. He had a town hall that was organized in conjunction with Fox News specifically to advance his political interests. And for some reason, Bernie Sanders wasn't denounced widely as a Nazi when he did that, nor do I think he should have been. I thought it was perfectly valid for him to do that. Amy Klobuchar was on Fox News just today. I happened to watch and sat through, and it was incredibly boring, but she was on. So I think this animus tends to be reserved for people who are seen as having sort of a left disposition, which I basically do, who then, commit treachery by appearing on Fox because you're going outside of what your bubble ought to be. I just reject that. And you have other people who have a similar disposition to me, who've also got invited to go on Tucker and do so occasionally, who get the same kind of BS pushback. And I just don't care. Beyond the guilt by association trap laying, it doesn't hold up to logical scrutiny in my judgment. And I'm going to continue going on if, as I said before, the one condition is met, which is that I can say what I really think. And that's always been the situation for my appearing on Fox. If it were to change, I would cease to go on Fox. But, there's no reason to think why it would change. It hasn't in, the years that I've been going on. I started going on in 2016, actually. So I'm going to continue doing it. And if you don't like it, I don't care. Great. Have a great day.